Oh shit. What's up, everyone? I am so excited for this one. So we got a guest again. I've done 2 solo episodes. I've been busy. It was Mother's Day weekend. I was traveling for Hartford. I was picking up extra hours at work too. So I was just like, you know what? Let me just do some solo episodes. And we finally got a guest back, and this guest I'm super excited to talk about. Talk to about his gaming history. You have a very like cool gaming history of how you got into competitive games. And carpooling with you to the local this weekend, you were telling me some stories, and I was like, "Oh my god, this would be great for the podcast." So sorry to hype you up a lot, Jacob, but I'm excited to have you on. We got Jacob Skraw on. He's a like a phenomenal YouTubist. He's a Magic player that's now in the VGC world. He was my teammate on Team New York. And Jacob, take it away. Can you just talk about how you got into the competitive gaming world and elaborate on your story through all the games to take you to where we eventually crossed paths, so I know that might be asking you to talk for a while. But
Yeah.
yes, I would love to hear it.
Well, first, thank you for having me on, Tom.
Yes.
And I will try to live up to the wonderful introduction. So I my so we have to start like when I'm like 2 years old for this.
Really?
So
It goes
yeah.
back your entire life.
So my family, or at least my dad and his side of the family, they are extremely competitive. Everybody was a jock. Everybody has a story about how they would have gone pro, except it's in baseball or hockey or this or that, except for some injury that happened to them, and how they were
It was my
scouting and blah
shoulder
blah
for
blah.
me.
Yeah, every single one of them. It's everyone. Every family has a few people, but
My shoulder.
every uncle, everybody, and both my brothers were very into lacrosse and hockey.
Oh,
Uh,
lacrosse is huge on Long Island. You're a
yeah,
Long Island cat too. So I'm
yeah,
a Long Island cat. I grew up playing lacrosse.
everyone grew up playing lacrosse in Long Island.
Yeah.
And so my oldest brother, Steven, he was good. He was, but wasn't really looking like he was
Steven
gonna get in.
Scraw is a kick-ass lacrosse name.
But he didn't really. I don't think my dad thought he was gonna get anywhere beyond like playing it in high school. My brother Robert started even younger than Steven did, and he was even better at it. So
Oh
my
wow.
dad was like, "Oh my god, if I start Jacob now, he's gonna be the best of the best." So that's how I got my first ice skating lesson at 2 years old, and to this day I don't know how to ice skate. Uh, so, but I guess even if it wasn't sports, the competitive stuff really did. I guess because it just runs in the family. I guess because when I was in seventh grade, a friend I played World of Warcraft with was like, "Hey, there's this card game called Magic that I think you'd like." So I remember we walked from his house like 2 miles to a convenience store and a shopping center we went to, and we didn't know what starter decks were or whatever. So we just went up and we were like, I don't know, let's get like let's we just bought 60 packs, like between the three of us. I'll never forget the guy at the counter that was like 60, and we were like, yeah, how much is that with tax? And he was like, no tax, because
That's a
it's
baller
a
ass move.
well, it's a convenience store, right? Like people go
Yeah.
in there and they buy one pack for their kid to shut them up. People don't go
Yeah.
there to like start playing the game. And so we all split the packs and we opened them and we started building decks out of them. And then we went to this really small game store in Center Moriches. That was run by this old man who was who had the store since like the 50s, not 50s, like 60s, 70s. That where it used to be a comic book store, and then as card games got popular, he got into that, and it became a card game place. But it was a small place right on Main Street in this little town. And I remember he was like, "Oh," and he taught us how to play a little better. And I beat him, and I was like, "Wow, I beat the game store owner. I must be good at this game." That was not true, uh, but that kind of got me thinking, maybe I'll try this for real. And we started, and weren't great. It wasn't those card games. Anyone who plays them knows they get very expensive very fast. We didn't have a lot of money. But once I got a summer job, worked at McDonald's. Very stereotypical. Actually, before that, I wore a chicken costume on the side of the road for a wing place
Oh
during the
my god.
summer.
That's awesome. That's an awesome first job.
Dude,
Also,
I would get drinks thrown at me because it was like in the Hamptons. All the rich people didn't care, but it wasn't. But it was something. Makes good
yeah, that's
stories.
out there. That's a whole different part of Long Island. I think East Moriches was like an hour and a half away from me. Because
Yeah,
when we went skydiving, I like fell asleep on the car ride home. And like I was
it's
supposed to be
out
the
there.
directions guy, and I was just sleeping in the front seat, and everyone was like, "Come on, Tom." Like, what the fuck? Like, my bad, guys. But yeah, no, I loved. That's my only East Mauritius story. I went skydiving there when I was like right out of high school, probably 2012. You could catch me skydiving, lying about my weight. I was 225, and the weight limit was 220, or I was 220, and the weight limit was 215, whatever it was. But that's a whole different part of Long Island. Like
Dude,
that
it's
comic book
so
store must have been
weird.
in the middle of fucking nowhere.
It was out east is like little centers of civilization.
Yeah,
Like I'll never forget this. There was a it was right by the high school I went to, and people were excited because they were building a Wendy's. But because the little town had like a has a rule where everything has to look like colonial buildings because it's like some kind of historic preservation
Fort
district.
Washington has that too.
Yeah, a bunch of places on the island do. Miller Place too.
Yeah, Miller
Same.
Place. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And so when it got built, it looked like a house. It was this very weird little place. But I played there for a while, and once I started making money, I started going to events. I did okay. It was all right. And that by the time I was
what
in
was the
like
first big event you went to, and what made you make that push from like just local scene to big event?
so something that I think Magic does really well, and NAIC does this, but the I don't think the regionals do particularly well, is Magic tournaments like the Grand Prix. Or I don't think they're called that anymore. I think they're called Magic Fests now. But Grand
That's a
Prix
cool name still.
they were conventions. They were not come here for the tournament. It was we have the big tournament at the Magic conventions. So
Oh,
like so the first like two conventions cons I went to, we didn't stay both days. It was a day trip because there was one in New Jersey or whatever. And that's exactly what we did. I remember the first one I ever went to was Grand Prix New Jersey. It was this really funny. It was a really funny thing because we entered the main event even though we couldn't stay because the playmat was for a very popular card called Brainstorm, and the playmat was worth like $200. So we registered decks. I registered a deck called Playmat Combo, and it was just 60 basic islands, which if you play Magic, you can't actually do anything with, but it's a legal deck. Showed up, got my thing at the players meeting and left. Or just went and played side events the rest of the day. And then I immediately spilt ink from painting on the playmat, so I sold it for $20 like 4 years later because it was destroyed.
I
Uh,
actually spilled barbecue sauce on my NAIC competitor playmat last year.
yeah,
There's barbecue sauce all over Chimchar. Yeah.
I got mine rolled up, sitting up on a little hook right now. I'm letting up a little plastic bag if you want a new one.
I should
But
have kept this pristine and not eaten uh chicken nuggets with barbecue sauce right on top of it.
I gotta say, just almost every game I've ever played, like loves giving out playmats. I probably have 50 playmats just rolled up in various places between my apartment and my mother's house. And it's just,
You probably got some gems in there.
maybe, but they're all worn out and they're all used and
Yeah,
faded and
you
whatever at this point.
use your playmats.
Yeah, I do. I use them for mouse pads now
That's
mostly.
exactly why I got them on all my desks for mouse pads. And then when I move my laptop to eat, that's when open them myself to food spillage.
The incident.
The barbecue sauce incident,
Yeah, but
2022.
I wanna. I had my first like success at an event
Yes,
uh in I want to say when I was in 11th grade, so it was what 2000. When did I graduate high school?
I graduated 2012, so it's easy for me to remember.
Probably 2015, right? Yeah, yep, 2015 because 2016
So
was
you're
7
a
years ago.
couple years younger than me. Yeah,
Yeah. And what was I saying? All right, so I qualified for the Star City Games Invitational. The way Magic tournaments work is a little different, or at least it used to be a little different than the way it is in Pokemon, where the qualifier events are usually like at the store level, and people just to get people in, and it'd be like 40, 50 player tournaments just at these card stores, and it was a place called Empire Games that a friend of mine used to own. It's been gone for years and years and years now. And I was playing like this this deck that people hated to lose against because it was a very fast, very aggressive deck. And the only reason I played it, because I don't usually like to play games that way, was because the whole deck was like $50, and I was like, done, good playing this
sold.
the whole season because because I didn't have any money.
Yeah, and
Uh,
you're like, I could actually play competitive.
exactly. And from there, basically, they have the SCG Invitational and they have the Pro Tour. One's the Pro Tour is the official thing run by Magic. The SCG Invitational is run by Star City Games, which is it was like a
Subsidiary?
big it was a big game store that started running their own tournaments that had a lot better cash prizes and a lot better, like, it was much more. The Pro Tour was what every it's what VGC is. It's advertising, right? Like that. The whole reason these things exist is to advertise their games. They build
Yeah.
the Bible. But the SEG Invitational circuit was a lot. It was very clear it was about the competitive game, so the coverage was a little different. It was more geared towards people that played competitively in every aspect, and it had a better price pool, a lot more money involved. So I actually could not go to my first invitational because of something with school. I remember being really upset because
Oh,
I was like, well, there goes my chance. But I got really into this deck a few years later. At this point, I'm in college. It was called Ad Nauseum. It was a combo deck.
what
If
college you
anyone's
go to
played,
again, if you don't mind me asking some personal info?
what was that?
What college you go to, if you don't mind me asking some
I,
personal info?
I went to Stony Brook. Just like
Oh yeah,
every person that stayed home for school on Long Island that didn't go to
Nassau
Nassau or
or
Southern
Suffolk.
Community, yeah, went to Stony Brook, right?
I went to
Or
Nassau.
yeah,
Yeah, and then I graduated Farmingdale.
yeah. How many campuses does Nassau have? Because I had a lot of friends
Oh,
that
when
went to
I was
Suffolk.
there, it was only like the main one and a couple offshoots that I didn't really go to or know about. But now I think it's a lot more. Because I think they have some. No, Farmingdale has the aviation school off campus.
Mhm.
Nassau has like a whole nursing thing built in now. I think they used to go somewhere else.
Yeah, because I
Like,
I have friends that went to Suffolk just like to get like associates of arts and like business things or whatever. But even just like stuff you'd think would be at the main school, they'd be bouncing around like six campuses all over Suffolk County. I never really understood that
so,
because
Nassau only has the different offshoots for different majors. So like if
that
you're in
makes
like the
sense.
special like nursing thing, you could go. Also, you ever need cheap dental work on the island? Farmingdale has the student dentists that are learning.
Oh yeah.
Terrifies me that thought, but that's in the back of my head if I ever really have some dental issues.
Well, I don't know how good my insurance is going to be once I start my new job, so I might have
Yeah,
to keep
no,
that in the
that's
back of
why I
my
was
mind.
like, it's just a pro tip on Long Island now. I realize, like, all right, yo, that's you're willing to risk it. These are going to be professional dentists, hopefully, right?
Hmm.
Maybe. So some of them, the ones who graduate, oh my god. The more I talk, the more scared I get of going though. So that's why I haven't gone. Like I got a root canal from my main guy and paid a lot of money when I was thinking maybe I should go to Farmingdale and ask the student dentist.
Hey, you don't want to mess with your mouth, so I don't know. Probably good reason it costs less, right?
Oh, exactly. But you might get like a kick ass the next prodigy dentist. You never know.
Yeah,
I don't think they're at Farmingdale actually. I keep talking myself out of it. You never know.
maybe do it for a cleaning. Do it for something small. Give it a test run.
Yeah, before I go in there for the big guy, like I broke my tooth in half.
Yeah,
Oh my
exactly.
god. That's so goddamn funny. But yeah, man. So you were in high school and college doing this shit, which is crazy to me. Like I started doing this during COVID and then started going to events right when COVID was finishing up. So
Hmm.
like the scene before was probably even more like organic and then in Magic bigger than Pokemon, right?
A
I'm
lot
guessing
bigger.
a lot bigger.
Yeah, the community is it's very different. Or it was a lot bigger. It's been on a decline for the last several years, more
Because a
than
lot of
some.
you cats are coming to Pokemon.
I don't. I think I could go on for like 4 hours about what Magic's done wrong to destroy the competitive scene. But long story short, there's a format called Commander, very popular, very casual, and frankly, competitive players don't buy a lot of product, right? Like I'm not going to go and buy random booster packs. I'm going to go online and buy the cards I need secondhand. So that doesn't make Wizards a lot of money. This casual format was extremely popular already, and the game's just been like slowly being pushed more towards that. And it makes business sense, but I'm still mad about it because it means what I liked about the game is gone. Uh,
Yeah.
but for the majority of my time playing Magic competitively, I was like, people call them grinders, where it's like if you show up at an IQ, you'll or an invitational qualifier or a PTQ, people would know who I am in the local scene. I would know who they are, and they'd be like, "Oh, he's like somebody that it's not going to be a free win if I sit down, and he might win, and he has a shot at winning the whole thing." But I was never like, "Oh, he's that guy." Until COVID, or until like right before COVID, I should say, I picked up a deck that was like it was popular for a while before that, but it was called Blue Moon. If you know anything about Magic, it was basically close to a mono blue control deck that just played Blood Moon to lock down people, punishing them for playing lots of colors, lots of non-basic lands, and then you played a few like lightning bolts and things like that in it. And I loved that deck. It was like it
It
became
fit
my
your play style.
thing. Yeah, whether because what I like playing playing interactive, like grind you out type of strategies. But something I noticed when I played Magic, and something I might actually haven't thought about this when I playing Pokemon, but now that I mentioned thinking about it now, I might try and see if it tracks. I'm very bad about getting comfortable. Like if I can choose between like wrapping up a game and like sitting there and like building myself up some more, I would often like do that too much and give myself a chance to lose when there shouldn't have been one. And Blue Moon, it didn't let you do that because it operated on very 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 slim margins.
Yeah.
Like every game you won, you felt like you were like half a turn away from losing. And that was where I got my first like big finish. Like it wasn't the biggest tournament I'd played in. It wasn't like an invitational or a pro tour, but it was my best result, and people noticed it. Was I top aided the Northeast Star City Regional
Yeah.
with Blue Moon,
Let's fucking
and
go.
this was right after a set called Throne of Eldraine had come out that printed a lot of very, 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 very broken cards. And this is before they started banning anything out of it. And I was the first player to really adapt, one of the first players, I should say, because no one really can claim to have been things in a game as big as Magic, to adopt playing a lot of copies of this card called, what was it called? Mystic Sanctuary, I think it was. That that got banned relatively quickly afterwards. It was an engine with this card, Archmage's Charm. This card that would like it's created this like very very hard to interact with engine, and also an infinite with a not in, it also locked people. You could also lock people out of the game with a card called Cryptic Command, but everyone figured that out when the card got spoiled. So I can't take any. I can't be like I invented Mystic Sanctuary lock, but
No, but you were using it too.
yeah, I was using it very early on. I was very early adopter of it. Um, and then COVID happened. And I played on
Oh,
Magic Online a little bit.
you were playing Magic right up until COVID.
I got out of Magic for a while. We skipped a step here that I'm gonna backtrack on.
Okay.
But because I had gone out of Magic for like 3 years, and then I got back in like 8 months before COVID.
Oh wow.
Yeah, not best with my timing. Yeah, and then yeah,
Everything happens for a reason though.
yeah, and then COVID happened, and I played Magic Online for a little bit. And I kind of it was just, no, it was a few months before COVID happened. To be fair, I think it was like a year before. But I was just hitting my stride as a player that people like knew who I was because I was winning, not just because I showed up a lot. Um, and that kind of knocked out. I mean, like Magic Online is infamous for being a very bad program. Like to this day, it looks like it was made in the 1990s. I didn't really like I didn't really like standard originally format they supported on Magic Arena. But I think where I really like became somebody who can like say like I am good at games was in my tabletop era. Uh, I
Yes.
got I got very into right during when did we start playing? So I was very I can look this up actually. Because I can look this up based on when a set came out.
This is Guild Ball?
There's a few steps before Guild Ball actually.
Okay. Because
So
hearing
around
that in the car ride was awesome.
yeah, so around 2017, I was getting kind of out of Magic. Like I just didn't have like the drive to take it seriously anymore. And a friend of mine was like, "Hey, why don't we get into Warhammer 40K, which is like a big like a very casual like there's a competitive scene, but it's very much like a beer and pretzels game is how they describe it. It's like these big like sci-fi fantasy battle like armies battle thing." And I was like, "Sure," and we got into that for a while. But it's a very messy game. You used back when I played it, you needed like 7 rule books to play one army because everything was in supplements and this and that.
Oh my god.
And yeah, it was. I kind of miss it in like it was really silly to be like actually because of my from my demon supplement I can have a +2 save to your thing and I can re-roll it like that was kind of fun like but I don't really miss it but it's fun to
Look back at.
yeah, it's fun to look back at and be like, I would do that like once a year if I still had all my models, you know? Because
Oh
in a game
god.
would take like 4 hours, which is another thing that's like just not realistic for me to do anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a real thing.
yeah, I was also this isn't really tracking my Pokemon stuff too much, but I always was an event organizer. I worked at a game store for most of for high school and all through college,
That's really
and
cool, actually.
I ran all their events. I was a judge for Magic when I wasn't competing. I was like I was the judge for for PTQs and things like that. And so I would run these events for Warhammer, uh, trying to balance them between they were a tournament, but also I knew most of the people playing in them weren't trying to be super competitive, so had to balance that. But from there, we went to other games. There's this game called War Machine, which is completely different company, everything. But that game was a lot more competitive. It was a lot more crunchy, like a lot more number crunchy. I wasn't very good at it, but I liked it, and I wanted to figure out like how these kinds of games worked. And from there, somebody was like, "Hey, why don't you try this game, Guild Ball?" I was like, "What's that?" And long story short, it's murder soccer. It's soccer, but you can beat up the other team.
Such a cool fucking concept and hysterical, like, board game, though.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and basically the thing that was interesting about it was all the teams were based around professions, right? So they'd all be so there'd be the Morticians Guild, and there'd be the Masons, and there'd be the Engineers, and there'd be Fishermen and stuff like that. And I immediately gravitated towards the Morticians because they just I don't know because I'm an edgy bitch, but also because I really like just like control like style stuff. I like when my guys aren't like the strongest, but they can manipulate what you can do, and because of that, I can take advantage of it.
Okay.
And it took a while, but when the new edition of the rules came out, I was like, okay, they buffed the team I like a lot. I don't got a lot going on that I have to do. I want to. I'm gonna try to be good at this game because I don't do things halfway. I don't do. I'm very bad at like getting casually into something.
Yeah.
I've gotten a little better
Been
about it recently.
been there.
Like when I do something, and like how do I get good at it?
Yeah.
So we played. There was a point where they had this website called Longshanks that keeps track of records. And there was a point where I was like 55-0. Like I had won like something like 10 tournaments in a row.
Holy
Uh,
shit.
and eventually I topped that at like the number 3 player in the world. And the thing that was interesting was a lot of players really did not like to play Morticians. They thought they were bad. They just didn't really get them. Like a lot of the top players knew they were good, even though not a lot of them actually played them as their team. Because it was a very tricky team to play because it was all about you had to know what your opponent's model did better than they did a lot of the time. And then that like I just kind of got bored of it eventually. I did a little I think the NDA's gone by now. They can try and extradite me to the UK if they want. I did a lot of playtesting for them. Me and my friends met one of the developers at SteamCon USA, which was their big convention where they had nationals. And he was like, our plan was to try and get him to let us into their press group for our podcast. Like, you guys want to be playtesters instead? So that's what we did. Uh, they didn't listen to us very often, and not to be braggadocious, but we were right. Like, we'd be like, "This is a problem." They're like, "No," and then they would win the next 6 tournaments that mattered. We'd be like, "Oh, "Look at that," and then things would get
Hey,
changed.
yeah.
And
Yeah, wait a second, that's awesome.
from and the game like they wound down the game. There were some production issues where they tried to switch the model line from resin to pewter, or from pewter to resin because resin was cheaper and it looks nicer. Like things you if you play minis, you know what I'm talking about. Like the cast metal versus pewter or well injection molds, but they weren't a big enough company to be doing the injection mold plastics. It's too much money to make mold in the first place. But because of that, there was a long period of time where if you're like, I like Guild Ball, Guild Ball's cool, I want to get into it and I want to play this guild. They'd be like, well, they stopped making the pewters a few months ago. So if you can buy them secondhand, great. Otherwise, the only themes you can play are the 2 teams they released as like a crappy plastic, and the 2 teams they've released in resin so far. So all of a sudden, like 75% of the game, if you were trying to get into it, you just could not get. You had to hope somebody had it
Oh,
sitting in their closet. And it actually worked out because between me and 2 of my friends, we owned the entire model line 2 or 3 times over. So it wasn't a problem for our community because we would just lend things out to people.
and then
But
get it back, yeah.
well, yeah, exactly. Well, that was fine. We were just like, here you go, when you can find them, whatever. And that was never a problem for us. But for other communities that didn't have people that were idiots that spent all this money on, I to this day I have like multiple boxes of like unopened Guild Ball models sitting in my mother's attic.
It might be worth money one day, right?
I
No?
people have to care about the game for it to be worth money. If I don't care anymore, I have a very strong feeling that other people don't. But maybe, who knows? Uh, and the game shut down because of it. They indirectly blamed us because there was a very particular. There was a very particular strategy that competitive players use that, to be fair, like was not fun to play against if you didn't know what you were doing and if you were a casual player. And it made a really weird divide in the community. And part of the reason why we were hired as playtesters was to help fix that problem, and they just wouldn't listen to us when we were like, "Here's how." We're the people that like have success with this strategy. Do this so that it's not as good anymore. Like make these changes, and they were like, "No, we're not gonna." And
And do you think if they
so
made those changes, the game would have lived for longer than it did?
I think the production problems still would have killed the game eventually.
Okay.
Uh, but I wouldn't be as bitter about it because they
Yeah.
wouldn't. Because right in there in the little article, they actually deleted the blog post, but there's still articles reporting about it. You can find like this tabletop website called Bell of Lost Souls. You can still find it on. And they said that they mentioned the killing the ball, what they called it. You know, it's different than what it means what it is in actual soccer, to a degree. As part of the reason why it was so why they stopped, and it was like, oh, they think it's our fault. They don't think it's their fault that they were like, how come we can't make any money on this game that nobody can buy our stuff from anymore? And then it actually the president at the time of Steamforge, I don't know if he's still with the company, blocked on Twitter like 9 out of the 10 of the people that were the top 10 of the world at the time because they kept like messaging like saying things like adding him on Twitter and saying things like about it. So he just blocked them all. These people that he was like gassing up like maybe a week before. It was very funny. Uh,
Holy shit.
yeah, very very petty. It was a very petty thing, which it's not good to be petty, but it's kind of fun to watch pettiness happen. Uh,
Dude, murder soccer is a cool idea for a game, though.
it's a good concept. It was a good concept. The model line was really nice. It was high quality models. The rules were a little crunchy and hard to pick up, but because there was only 6 models on the field for each person, it was like you could figure it out. And it was just clean. I just
That's cool to hear, though. Like, because there's probably so many games we don't know about. Like, I don't know. You probably know a lot that I don't know about, and there's probably a lot in the world that you don't know about. That's like kind
yeah,
of crazy to me to think about, like all these different communities forming over these like niche games that are so like probably a lot of fun, like
yeah.
that I've never heard of.
There was one that I was like very close to getting into, and then I didn't because I didn't because it was during law school. Just see if I have any models for it. It was called Marvel Crisis Protocol. It was a skirmish minis game that I know a lot of people that I played Guild Ball with are all obsessed with it now. And I
Okay,
bought the Black Panther faction because I was told they were gonna be like they're like the control team. And I like started building them and painted like one model, and then I was just like, I don't have time for this anymore. But now that I'm finished with school, maybe at some point think about getting back into it. Not as much as I was, just but yeah. So for my whole life, I've played some game competitively. And during COVID, Magic started losing interest for me because not being able to go to events just like wasn't the same.
yeah.
And tabletop games are off the table just because of time. And December of my first year of law school, one of my best friends, or my best friend, Scott, was like,
Shout out
if you get
Scott
was like,
getting
give
that best friend
me
role.
yeah. He was like, give
Yeah,
me I met him when I was like 14. And I didn't know who he was, but I called him Blackbeard because he had a really long beard and like a lot of earrings. So I thought he was like a pirate.
and you guys been buds since.
No, he didn't know I called him that until like 2 years ago.
That's really funny.
And maybe probably more than 2 years ago now. And he was like, give me like $50 and I'll give you my Switch Lite and this extra copy of Pokemon Shield I've had lying around. Oh no, I bought the game digitally. So I did that, played the game. I was like, oh yeah, I do like Pokemon. 'Cause I hadn't played a Pokemon game since I played Sun on release and then never played the game again. Big Out to the Champion was like, cool. That's how you play a Pokemon game, and then didn't touch it again.
That's all I did too. Play, and then I did Ultra Sun. I beat the game, beat the Elite Four, put it down, and never touched it again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just had not thought about Pokemon. Sword and Shield have been out for a while at this point because it was like 2021. Because both the DLCs were out. I know that much.
Oh, wow.
And
Cool.
I got into it. I was like, I finished it, and I was like, I wonder if what the competitive scene for this game looks like because I know there used to be one. So I
I
went,
wonder that's a cool question to ask coming from your gamer background, though, when you pick up a game casually. Like, that's a
yeah,
really cool way to get into it. Like, okay, that's, like, really fascinating to me.
and I remembered not liking singles. Like people in high school played it, I just wasn't really into it. Um, so I typed in like competitive Pokemon. And I was like, oh, let's see what happens. And I get a video, a Wolfie VGC video, where it's him like pretending like it's a college class. He's going through like PowerPoints and stuff. And I'm like, and I was kind of listening to it while I was driving to my mom's house. And I was like, oh, I didn't know it was doubles. That's kind of interesting. And I didn't think about it for a while. And then because I'd watched that video and it was a long video, longish, YouTube started recommending me more of Wolf's stuff. And I was like, you know what? This looks cool. I'm going to do this. And kind of the rest is history from there. You know, they brought regionals back, and the first regional was going to be in Secaucus, which is an hour from the
I think
city.
Indy
Not
was the
even.
first one, Secaucus was the second.
Yes, no, I think you're right.
Yeah, because I went to both. I went to Indy and then Secaucus.
No, you were right. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's close. All right, I have time to get ready for it. Let's go. And I got into it, and I was having a good time with it. And then I was like, you know, what would be cool because I'd thought about doing a YouTube channel for Magic, and I thought about it for Guild Ball, and like I always made the channel, uploaded like one bad video, and then like just lost interest. But I was like, I'm gonna do it for real this time. I'm gonna like track my progress. And I was and it started me recording Pokemon Showdown gameplay on the Xbox game bar that came pre-installed with my computer.
Oh, wow. That's a
uh,
throwback.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's still on my computer. I think it's like came
The
pre-installed.
Xbox 360 game bar, right?
It's something. I don't. It's just called the Xbox Game Bar. It just came pre-installed with this computer, and I got this computer when I graduated
Oh, I'm thinking
undergrad.
of, like, the Xbox 360, they had something that you could, like that like, they had a camera attached that could, like,
Yeah, I mean,
certain games if you need
this is like likely a spiritual successor, if anything. It's gonna fix
Oh, you just moved.
real leak. Yeah, I was fixing the an issue.
That looked
Uh,
really cool on my end. It looked really cool.
well, I'm glad it looked. I'm glad we fixing my green screen, like not properly keying out. Looked cool.
I gotta
Uh,
set up my green screen so you don't see my clothes that I need to put away that I have folded in the background.
that's the only reason I have it set up is because my apartment looks like a hurricane hit it,
Yeah.
and it's kind of went from there. I mean, made bad videos for a while. Secaucus came and went. I did badly. Spoilers.
What was
Uh,
your record?
uh, see, what I was telling people was I was like, I only lost one more game than I won, which was objectively true, but it also what was also objectively true was that I went 3-6. Because
Okay.
I won every set 2-0 and I lost every set 2-1, so it just kind of worked out that I could spin it a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it was fun. I liked that. Oh, NAIC is coming up. Oh, what the job I'm working for the summer? Like I can afford it with the stipend I'm gonna get. Okay, I'll go. And I went to NAIC and I was like, oh no, I really like this game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the story went. Obviously I didn't play in Worlds that year because obviously I was not good enough, and I didn't go to Worlds because I was a law student who couldn't afford to go to London on a whim to play Pokemon.
I did. I went on a whim like 10 days before I planned my trip. It was incredible. And like that
I
type of shit. Yeah.
I wish I could, but maybe soon, maybe soon. And yeah, that's kind of how it went from there. From there, I've gone to we're in the Sword and Shield. At some point for the YouTube stuff, I realized less videos, edit them, or hire somebody to edit them, and just be deliberate about things. And that's kind of how where the growth has come from. Was I decided to start thinking about it as a as like a business side to make a strategy around instead of just like throwing things on the internet that popped in my mind like it was another Twitter account.
Oh,
Uh,
what was your first like big video? Because you've had a couple of videos that have
I've
gotten pretty
never
big views, right?
I
But
don't
what's
I
like
don't
the
I
biggest
don't
one?
think I have a big video. Like I think you are greatly overestimating how large my presence is. My
Okay.
But let's see here. So I have some shorts that look big, Like I have a few shorts that have like 500,000 views.
That's okay, Mr. Humble.
Uh, like shorts are easy. They're only a minute. You can say anything and people will comment on them because they'll tell you you're wrong.
So what was your big so what's yeah, I guess talk to me about views then if you don't mind. Can I hear it from your end? Like what are like good views for a growing YouTube channel? Because I post this shit, don't even look, and I know I get like maybe 20 views and couldn't care less because I'm doing it more for fun. And I wanted to set the
Yeah,
goal like, can I see how long I could do this for and see how long I'm having fun with it for? And I'm still
yeah.
having fun with it. But I'm like
Uh,
curious from your perspective now, trying to like make it more business oriented.
I mean, there are like 50 people in the VGC community that you should be asked that you could ask about this before me. But
You're
since
my
I'm the one
friend.
here, oh yeah, I know. But since I'm the one here,
Yeah.
views are bad metric. Like obviously views equal good video, but it's so frenetic and like you'll upload a video and it'll be like and it'll say 1 of 10 on YouTube and it'll spout out the little confetti. You'll be like, wow, I'm a genius. And then just like it won't like it doesn't keep the momentum and you check back 2 hours later now it's like 9 of 10 and all the little arrows are pointing down and they're gray or they're red and you're like and then like and if you let
Sky is
that
falling.
yeah, and it's just like that feels really bad, and it's designed to make you feel bad because it's designed to make you feel bad when a video does poorly. So you upload another one, and it's designed to make you feel. It's all about dopamine. Like it's very gamified, just like any social media. YouTube is
Yeah.
social media. Uh, so what I try to do, and I'm bad at it, because like I definitely clicked refresh on the video I uploaded today, maybe like 30 times in the last 8 hours, to see what the views
The
were.
video you uploaded today is fucking incredible.
That
Like
took so much work, and if it wasn't for Gavin, it would have been like it would have been like a month till that video got uploaded. He just gave me so much information about the early days of VGC. I wouldn't
so
have been able
yeah,
to
I
do
didn't
it
ask
myself.
you pre-show, but can we go a little behind the scenes on the making of that video if you don't mind? Like what was the inception point and like it came together really nicely in the end. Did it hit your original goal for like what you wanted out of the
Um,
video?
it's hard to tell. It's hard to know yet.
Okay, because it's the
Dep
first couple hours. It's been released since like 9 a.m.
yeah. Let's look at like some of the last long forms I've done. So basically, I've been hitting a point where I'm trying to figure like my TikTok is. I'm happy with where it is. I have 12,000 something like that followers. I'm in
Really
like
fucking
I'm in all the different like creator programs they have, except for the live one because for some reason you can't get into the other program if you're in the live one. So whatever. So I'm happy with that, and but I want but what I want to be is YouTube, right? Because it's just like yeah, it's what you grow up watching. You want to people say you want to be a YouTuber, not a TikToker or whatever, and also it's just more stable, right? Because if I could make this into a revenue stream, I would like to, even though that's a very far flung thing. So I've been thinking like, how do I do that? So I've realized that like the video on my YouTube channel before the rain, when I was most proud of, was my San Diego recap video. Uh, Very much inspired by Wolf's video about worlds. Obviously, significantly less detailed, significantly less insightful, because I am not one of those. I'm not the best player in the world like Wolf is, and
yeah.
I do not have the money to have my editor do something like that. We do have an editor because I'm just not very good with visual stuff.
Shout out the
Uh,
editor.
what about him?
Shout out the editor.
Oh
Whoever
yeah,
does.
his name's Ixon. He wants to be a music producer, and he on his TikTok all the time. It's IXAM, and if you can't find it from there, just check any of my YouTube videos with his comments on them. Uh,
Shout out.
and so he'll like do remixes and stuff.
Fuck yeah.
And where was I going with that? Oh, like something I'm really happy with is when I did the video where we broke down the finals of OCIC. Oh no, EUIC it was. He said he like just on his own. He was like, "Yeah, I couldn't find like a track I liked for the beginning, so I just made one." He just so like that the first I want to say minute or so of that video is just the music here in the background. Something he made like specifically for that video. It doesn't exist anywhere else on the internet, and that's amazing. It
Yeah,
is
that's
such
really cool.
a very something I the thing I'm like the most gifted at in life is I'm very good at ending up surrounded by very talented people, and those people are where everything comes from. Uh, I'm just good at knowing who to talk to about what, I guess. And
That's a good skill to have though.
it is, but it is. But I think what they can do is a lot more impressive. So where I'm at with the long form stuff is I've been trying to figure out how do I make these videos in a way that people that play VGC are still going to want to watch them. But I hit my actual goal because my goal for the channel for a long time has been I want it to be an entry point to VGC. Something that I maybe unfairly have a gripe with is VGC is extremely secretive. Like
Yes.
when I played Magic, when I played Guild Ball, the idea of like not releasing your like the exact list of your team after the fact, like right if you won a tournament was like unheard of, and that was because the company did it themselves, even if you didn't. So I'm not poo pooing anyone for not doing this because it's information and it's valuable and it makes it in some way it might affect your chances at the next tournament. But it does have a negative effect on newer players in that there's just less information out there than there could be, and a lot of the people that do put out information, for example, Wolf and Aaron's VGC guide, which is a great resource. It's designed to be evergreen. So you'll know what an IV is, you know what an EV is, you know what an egg move is, but you won't know. You want to get into Scarlet and Violet VGC, here's a good starter team, right? Like those resources are few and far between. And those resources won't tell you, here's why Palafin is good in Series 3, or here's why Masquerada isn't good anymore. Like those kinds of things don't those like things that we take for granted that might be require a little more explaining or a little harder to find, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to uh, balance that, both
It's a
serving
cool
as
goal.
something, yeah. And so that's where this video came from. I was like, how do I make a video that VGC players and non-VGC players will be interested in, uh, that has some level of education to it? So I thought, well, this I've been playing a lot of rain teams. I was like, I'm a very big I love Palafin. I've been playing a lot of Azumarill lately, and I was like, this team rain has been forever. Rain has been a thing. So I said, well, what if I broke down, talked about how rain teams have changed, and that's where it came from. And as I was writing it, I was like, this is a good video. This is a better video than anything I've made so far. And that so I write it. I have a vague idea. I did the title and thumbnail first for this one because I've read that's what you're supposed to do, even though it feels backwards to me. I actually do think it helped because it gave me a path when I was writing and for what I wanted the
Okay.
tone to be. Because
Yeah.
I made a little tablet with a chalkboard and I was like, oh, so this is like a college lecture. Like that's the energy this is gonna give off. That's why I wore the little suit in it, and I have my
Yeah, the
little the
suit was a
wolves.
nice touch.
Yeah, I really liked the tie I was wearing. I couldn't go to the London Worlds, but a lot of my friends went, and so my friend L gave me a tie that they had only at the Pokemon Center in London. And I haven't had a chance to wear it yet because
So that was a perfect
when
chance.
yeah, because when they first gave it to me, I left it in the hotel room by mistake that we were staying in. It was at Orlando, and then I
Yeah.
finally got it for real this time in Charlotte, and I was like, I need to find a time to wear this. So
Yeah.
debut, and I think it's doing what I want it to do because there are people who, it's a trip down memory lane. People that already know all this stuff. It's a chance to organize information for people, right? Because like you could pretty easily like through Google find all the information I had in that video, but it's nice to see it all as a narrative,
In one
and that's
spot.
kind of yeah, exactly, and that's kind of where I'm at. That's what I'm trying to do with the YouTube stuff. But that's just like it's a hobby, right? Like if I can make a few bucks off of it, sick. But it's kind of the same issue as before, where I don't do things. I'm very bad at doing things casually. So I was posting them in my little gameplay videos, and I was like, yeah, but how do I do this like the real way? And so now
Oh,
I
and
got
that's
my
really
little
cool to see. That's really
I,
fucking cool to see, though.
yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel, man.
Thank you. I hope there are more fans now.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
mean, that's
Come
always
from
that's always the dream. Like when in Charlotte, a person, I want to say this like teenager, I played them in a side event, and they're like, "Your voice sounds familiar," and I was like, "Well, like I make YouTube shorts, but I don't know if you know." He's like, "Are you Skraw?" And that
that's
made my
so
day.
cool.
That
That's
was
so
so good.
cool.
And we took a picture, went in front of like one of like the big Zacian standouts or whatever, and that was a nice feeling. But
Bro, like that
that's really
we
where
were
I'm at.
talking about that before, like getting recognized at these events is such a weird, cool feeling. It
Yeah,
really
for
fucking
sure.
is. And it's just like it brings a smile to my face every time someone comes up and says, "Oh, you're the guy from Twitter. Or you're the guy from this. You're the guy from that."
Yeah,
And like getting that from the YouTube channel has got to feel really fucking cool.
it did. It was like it felt very
Yeah,
validating because it meant one, people knew who I was, and two, that it's like the videos are reaching who they're supposed to reach.
people like are paying money to go to these events. Exactly.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
like, the
keep it.
side event people, I call those the real fucking players because like, anyone playing in a side event really fucking loves the game. You don't play in a side event if you don't love the game, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the first ever. It was like the Reg C tournament at Charlotte,
Okay.
and people were like actually, and it was before people knew it was best of one. People were like scrambling for details for it. It was like the first like Reg C thing that it happened, and I
Yeah,
remember.
because Charlotte was still Reg 2 or Series 2.
Yep, it was the last Series 2 tournament. I actually haven't played a Reg C official event, so I guess the locals count, but I haven't played a Reg C regional.
What's Cycle
Uh,
4 gonna be? Or what's a synonym for series or
Reg,
regulation that they
Reg,
could use?
Reg, Reg D, I guess it would be called. I mean, like,
Yes, season
it's
4.
yeah, it's probably going to be some variation of like Reg C plus home, right? I think it'd be really funny if it was that Paldea prologue format because I don't have to play it because I'm not going
That's
to
what
the
I'm rooting
worlds.
for, low key. I want chaos and confusion.
It won't, but see, like, I don't think it would be chaos and confusion. It would be Miraidon Iron Bundle on every team, and that would
With
be it.
Iron
Like,
Hands.
yeah, hands would be good, but it's like, think about Focus Sash Iron Bundle that still gets the booster, the Quark Drive boost. Like, think about if you really want to play against that. I don't. Uh,
I don't. I don't at all. Oh my god.
Especially
The
there's a core
Paldea
like
prologue for Worlds. It's gotta happen.
it would be a. I think it'd be a bad decision from a marketing perspective. It would make the
Yep.
players playing happy. I think it would be funny.
Yes. Agree with all of those. So that's why I'm rooting for it. But
But
I don't think
I
it's gonna be home decks mons. I really don't. I don't know. I heard a rumor it might be non-paradox, so just ruin plus regular decks.
That's interesting. I don't think I want it to be that
I
because
don't want it
like
to be anything. I don't know what I want it to be.
I I thought it would be an unhealthy format, right? Because like the Paradox Mons and the Ruin Mons are like on very similar power level. If anything, I'd argue the Paradoxes are probably a little better.
Yes.
But the Paradoxes, but the Ruins are like they're all very warping, right? Like Tinglu is a like imagine trying to play like any special attacker that isn't a Flutter Mane with a Tinglu on the field. Or like
And you
imagine
take
not having.
away Fluttermane, but you still keep Tinglu.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's just not that doesn't feel like imagine trying to beat up a like you can Moonblast, you can choice specs Moonblast a Tinglu and it'll go down eventually. But like if you have to use Sylveon as your fairy type special attack, your attacker, or like let's say even imagine what's his face? What's he called? Or like having to do with like Dragonite
Chen Pao. Yeah.
Dragonite Shimpao without like without stuff like Iron Hands in the format, with like just like outbulk it. Like that's like that's tricky. Like that doesn't sound that sounds like it'd be get really weird really fast.
Bulk would
I'm
be huge, I think. Yeah.
I think what would be interesting because we were talking at the regional we went to on Sunday. Yeah, it was literally yesterday.
Yes.
With Justin Karras, and we were talking about expanding force hat because and how when home comes out. I think technically it's live now. The update probably came out 3 hours ago now, or at least they went down for maintenance 3 hours ago, I should say. Like, will those home move pools actually like instantly be allowed in Regulation C? Like, I hope the answer is no. Uh, because I mean, you probably want the answer to be yes. Because I think if Hat gets E-Force, all of a sudden, like that kind of trick room team is very, very real again, and a lot less
Very,
like niche.
very real again.
Yeah, I don't know,
Come back.
but well, because like it exists. Like I was playing that Halucha team a little while ago, and it's good. But like it goes from being like a thing that shows up sometimes that's like a tier two team. I don't like using tiers in Pokemon, but you know what I mean. To like a very scary threat, since that would mean that uh Hat can threaten the fair like a lot more stuff, a lot more scary. Like it can click a spread move basically every turn of the game with
You
its
need
crazy high
wide
special
guard.
attacks.
If you don't have wide guard, I'm gonna hit you with a helping hand or an instruct and Hatterene and
Well, yeah,
have
you gotta
fun.
be instruct. You're gonna play NDD and armor and Oranguru on the same
I
team.
did it
You're
at Hartford and it didn't work, and I'm gonna do it again if Hat gets expanding force.
This man wants his normal psychic types.
I had 4 psychic types at Hartford. Maybe that's why I went X4. I had 1 loss for every psychic type.
Play no psychic types next time.
If I go
You'll and then
undefeated,
and then
I'm
you'll
gonna
win the
walk you
whole
with 0 psychic types. That would be fucking hysterical.
Yeah, then you'll win the whole regional.
Oh
Easy.
my
You figured
god.
out. You figured it out.
I just can't run a psychic type.
Yeah, just no more psychic types. It's not even that good of a type anyway. It's cool, but it's not just wrong, you know?
Okay.
But
No
yeah.
psychic types, and we're gonna go 9-0.
Yeah, and then you're gonna and then you can't lose, so you day two, and then you win the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then you give me all the prize money because I figured out the problem for you.
No.
And then I can go to Worlds.
But yes, up until that. Oh
My
my god. What
consulting
would
fee.
I do with
Lawyers are
my
very
prize money?
expensive.
What would I do with my prize? Actually, people were asking me like, "How do you go to every event?" And I'm like, "I work at Jersey Mike's," and they're like, "That doesn't answer my question." And I was just laughing. Like, you know what? I set myself up well this year to be able to travel to as many events as possible. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that's
that was a
sometimes
funny
that
question
really
to
is
be
it.
asked.
What was that? I'm sorry.
That was a funny question to be asked, though. Like, how do you go to events?
These events get expensive. Like I got lucky a few times with like, I had a friend who had a timeshare in Orlando, or his grandmother had a timeshare in Orlando that I got to go to, that I got to
Yeah.
stay at for free and like deals and stuff. But they take a lot out of you, even if you do it like cheap.
Dude, the travel time is what's exhausting me more. Like, coming back from Portland, I was dead. I was fucking tired. And then, you know what? I went to the Maryland local, and that fucked up my sleep schedule before Hartford because I got home
That
at 4 a.m.
dude, that's the kind of stuff I used to do every weekend when I played
Yeah.
competitive Magic. But like, I can't imagine doing that. I would die.
I'm
Something
traveling
I
every weekend in June. I'm
Yeah,
traveling every weekend for Pokemon in June. It's gonna be a
yeah.
grind.
Yeah, for sure. Like, dude, like this is something like now that law school's over, no one can stop me no one can they can yell at me, but they can't stop me. So I very specifically did not have any classes on Mondays this semester because I was like, it costs a little more money, but if I can like fly out early Monday instead of like having to do the dash to the airport after the finals of every regional,
Yeah.
I will just be like in such a better state of mind. And that is
I
what I
do that.
did for the most part.
I take the Mondays off of work because it's just easier to travel back on the Monday and cheaper in the long run than trying to
Yeah.
get back Sunday, spending the extra money and stress, and then not earning that much back at work. Like, I was like, "You
Yeah.
know what? Fuck it."
And dude, even if you're flying out at like 9 p.m. on a Sunday, it's like the stress of having to get to the airport at some point. Like it eats up your whole day. Like
Yeah.
even if your flight's at like 10 o'clock at night, like by noon, you're like you can't really do anything else. You're too busy about thinking how you're gonna get to the airport.
Yeah,
At
what's my
least for
plan? I
me.
wanna get to the airport at least 4 hours early. Like, I wanna leave, get there, like, I always try to get to the airport, like, 3 hours before flight time, which ends up being, like, 2 hours before boarding time.
Yeah, it's just exactly like you want to do it the right way because God forbid something goes wrong, you get stuck there. This costs you more money,
Yeah.
and like you'll lose so much of the day, so you might as well, right? Like at NAIC, I got just because I was still there. I ended up at like this bar with like a bunch of people that like Wolf was there, Cybertron was there, like just people that I was like, wow, these are like the people you watch to play that you play this game. And it was just because I stuck around, and you don't get those chances as much if you're not there for if you lose that time. It's knocked over half my desk, uh, but it's cool. It gives you more time to do the social stuff.
Dude, and that's a real thing, like, Monday after Orlando, me and Carney Asada went to an alligator farm, and that was fucking incredible,
That is
you know?
cool.
Like, stuff like that, like and we went to Buc-ee's. He was like, "I gotta show you Buc-ee's. You never been to Buc-ee's?" And it was just, like, a really cool way to spend the day after the regional, and then, like, after Portland, I saw Guardians of the Galaxy and watched a Knicks game.
Mhm.
And then actually I fucked up. I thought I had a red eye Sunday night, land Monday. It was a red eye Monday, land Tuesday.
Oh no.
So I was stuck there all day Monday. And yeah, I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and then watched the Knicks game, and then I went to the airport. That was my day. And it's just like, exploring. And I asked the guy at the movie theater, "Where's a good spot to watch a game?" He sent me to this bar that had it was just um those big red picnic tables, like set up side to side inside with a giant projector. Like, the
Wow.
entire wall was the basketball screen,
Like a
and
like a movie theater almost.
yeah, it's a Portland Trailblazers watch party bar.
Oh wow.
So it was just, like, a huge place, like, that had a good finger food, that had a lot of beer and water on tap, and it was just like a place that people go to watch games. Like all the locals go there that are Blazers fans, and I like made my way in there and all my Knicks stuff. There were other Knicks fans there, and like exploring the city of Portland, like that was like seeing a local bar that was like it was really cool, man. And like other areas, I'm probably forgetting. Where'd I go in uh San Diego? I don't think I just did kind of like I just smoked a bunch of pot. Um Charlotte, I forget. Knoxville, I was with a childhood friend, so that
Hmm.
was really cool. I'm actually going to her wedding in June, and then I'm going to Premier Challenge, the one in Wilmington.
Hmm.
Like when I go to her wedding, that's gonna be fun. But it's like seeing the town in all these places has been so fucking cool, and like that's one of the underrated parts. But I didn't realize we've already been on for an hour, and I've had your time for like an hour and 15 minutes now. Because oh no, hour 10 minutes, because we did a whole little 15-minute preamble where we were just talking and hanging out. But
Hmm.
is there anything we didn't really touch on that you want to mention before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I just kind of rambled for an hour about various games, and we kind of went from there.
And I
The
loved listening.
Yeah, I mean, I I'm an Italian Jew, right? So like, if you let me talk, I'm gonna talk.
Fuck yeah. What part of Italy is your family from?
That is a great question. I don't know the answer to.
Okay,
Brooklyn, I think, is the if you look less than 4 generations.
yeah, so my grandfather's family owned a grocery store, convenience store in Brooklyn.
Hmm.
And then my grandmother's family, they were shoemakers in Brooklyn.
Wow,
That's what
that's
they
cool.
did when they came over from Sicily.
On my on my mother's side, my mom told me stories about how my great grandmother a gas station
Yeah,
in Brooklyn, and how a lot of the time the local the local mob would come by, just
yeah.
like because then everyone knew who they were. 'Cause that was the time of thing, and she always tell you stories, and they would always end with her being like, with this little Yiddish lady being like, they were very nice people. Just don't ask what the sound coming out of that trunk is.
So, my grandma's family was more like had people who were associated. They didn't really like them. And then my
Hmm.
grandfather's family was more straight and narrow, and they had the mafia coming to their store and being like, "You need to pay us for protection."
Hmm.
My grandfather's side always hated it, and then my grandmother's side, like hearing from about that stories from them, they hated the mafia too. But have you ever seen Goodfellas?
I do not watch movies. I am
Okay.
very bad. The only I think if you had a chart that showed how much time I've spent watching things, like just percentage wise, like television and
Oh,
movies, it'd be like actually 90% Star Trek. Just by
that is fucking hilarious.
just by watch time.
But yeah, no, Goodfellas was about my grandmother's family was a Sicilian family on Henry
Hmm.
Hill's side, which
Gotcha.
is kind of crazy. So a nice little piece of history.
Hmm.
And then my grandfather's side hated the fucking mafia.
No.
So it's like cool hearing both sides. And
Yeah.
like hearing stories about it from both sides of the family has been really fucking cool. Because my mom's 100% Sicilian. So like I love that Italian heritage. But
Yeah.
yeah. All right. It's been around an hour. I'll let you go, my friend. Again, thank you so much for your time. This was a
Yeah.
really cool episode, and I hope people enjoyed it as much as I loved recording it. And
You're very welcome, Tom.
I'm gonna release it like tomorrow because I've
Yeah.
been so bad about releasing episodes that I might as well just get this one out as soon as possible instead of trying to wait for Monday. And
Sure. Whatever you want.
yeah, because I missed an episode yesterday.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna release this one like ASAP. And yeah, dude, again, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you
See you,
soon, Tom.
everyone.
Thanks for having